Most people think that when life is about to change, they will feel it clearly. They expect a door to open with a sound. They expect everything to suddenly feel lighter, brighter, and easier to breathe through. But it doesn't work that way. The deepest transformations begin in silence. Outwardly, very little has changed. The mornings look the same. The conversations sound the same. The mirror reflects the same face. But inwardly, you have already quietly left behind an older version of yourself. Carl Jung believed that the most beautiful phase of life does not arrive when everything becomes perfect. It arrives when you begin to live closer to your true self, when you stop resisting what has already passed, when you stop letting other people's opinions determine your worth, and when you stop fearing the quiet spaces inside your own mind. Here are 5 quiet but unmistakable signs that you may be very close to that phase. Stay until the end, because sometimes the quietest changes in the soul are the clearest signals that a new chapter is beginning to unfold. There comes a kind of letting go that doesn't happen as a clear decision. It arrives like a deep settling within you. You no longer try to hold on to what once hurt you, not because you forgot, but because you no longer want to carry it. You can speak about what happened without your voice tightening. You can think about who hurt you without needing them to apologize or even acknowledge what they did. This is one of the most profound shifts a person can make, because most of us spend years waiting for the apology that won't come, waiting for the conversation that will finally make it make sense, waiting for closure that has to be delivered by someone else. And in that waiting, we keep ourselves chained to the very thing we want to escape. Jung wrote that we cannot change anything unless we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. When you are still resentful, you are keeping a part of yourself in a place that has already ended. Think of someone who spent a decade angry with a parent. Every birthday card reopened the wound. Every family gathering became a quiet reckoning. Then one day, not after a confrontation, not after an apology, they simply stopped. Not because the wound healed perfectly, but because they noticed that staying angry was costing them more than releasing it. They didn't forgive in the way we usually mean that word. They simply stopped paying interest on a debt that was never going to be repaid. That is the first sign. You stop demanding that the past be different, and you start letting it be what it was so that you can be who you are now. This one is subtle. It doesn't announce itself. It happens in small moments you almost miss. A comment that would have hurt you a year ago barely lands today. A judgment that would have kept you up at night passes through you like wind through an open window. You didn't become hard. You became clear. Your decisions gradually come from a quieter place within, where what matters is no longer what others will think, but whether a choice truly fits the person you are becoming. Jung believed that the ability to be alone without feeling a void is the sign of an inner world that is slowly becoming whole. When you can be alone without feeling empty, you stop going to others to fill yourself up. You go because you truly want to share, to be present, to walk beside them. You begin entering relationships from a place of fullness rather than lack. Think about 2 people at the same dinner party. One spends the evening reading the room, adjusting her tone, softening her opinions, laughing a little louder than she means to. She leaves exhausted, not because the conversation was difficult, but because she spent hours performing a version of herself she could only put down when she got home. The other person speaks less, listens more, and doesn't agree just to keep things smooth. She leaves feeling like herself. That is the difference, not loudness or confidence in the modern sense, just the quiet refusal to abandon yourself for the comfort of others. That is the second sign. You stop performing, and the people who were drawn to the performance slowly fall away to make room for the people who are drawn to you. This is one of the slowest signs. It doesn't arrive when the wound is fresh. It arrives years later, often in an unexpected moment. Driving home, washing dishes, walking somewhere familiar, when something quietly clicks into place. You begin to read the hidden thread running through what you went through. When a painful event first happens, all you can see is loss. That is natural and human. But over time, when emotion no longer takes up all the space, another way of seeing emerges. You begin to notice how the pain quietly changed you, what it built in you that nothing else could have. Jung wrote that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate. Maturity is not forgetting what you lived through. It is seeing why you needed to pass through it to become who you are now. Marcus Aurelius, who lost children, faced betrayal, and ruled through plague and war, wrote in his private journal, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He didn't write that as theory. He wrote it as a man who had been broken open by life and chose to find meaning in the breaking. This isn't about pretending pain was a gift. Some pain was simply pain, inflicted by people or circumstances that should have been different. But meaning isn't always about what happened. Sometimes it is about what you became because of it. The patience you wouldn't have otherwise, the depth you wouldn't carry, the ability to recognize in someone else's silence the same wound you once held in yours. That is the third sign. You stop asking why this happened to you, and you start noticing who you became because of it. For most of life, silence is uncomfortable. We fill it with music, conversation, phones, and plans. But somewhere along the way, you begin to notice that silence is not empty. It is full. Full of things you couldn't hear when the noise was constant. Full of insights that only arrive when nothing is competing for your attention. Full of a self that was always there, just quieter than the world around you. Lao Tzu wrote that silence is a source of great strength, not because it withdraws you from life, but because it returns you to it. Slowly, you find yourself drawn to early mornings, long walks, and time alone that doesn't need a justification. Not because you have become a hermit, but because you have started to recognize that your best self lives in those quieter moments. There is a difference between solitude and isolation. Isolation is loneliness wearing a stoic mask. Solitude is presence, with yourself, with the world, with whatever is actually happening, without the static. Think about a man who used to come home and immediately turn on the television, not because he wanted to watch anything, but because the silence of his apartment reminded him of something he didn't want to face. Then one evening, without planning to, he didn't reach for the remote. He just sat down. And the silence, the same silence that had once felt like accusation, felt like company. It felt like the first honest conversation he'd had with himself in years. Nothing dramatic happened, but something had shifted. The silence had stopped being his enemy. That is the fourth sign. You stop running from the quiet and start finding yourself within it. For most of your life, you have been chasing approval, achievement, and some imagined version of yourself that would finally feel like enough. The chase runs in the background of everything. Then, slowly and almost imperceptibly, it stops. Not because you gave up, but because you arrived. Not at a destination, but at a frequency. You stop reaching for the future to save you from the present. And something strange happens. The things you used to chase begin to meet you halfway. The right people show up. The right opportunities arrive quietly, without fanfare. This isn't magic. It is what happens when a person stops radiating desperation and starts radiating presence. Jung called this the transcendent function, the moment when the conscious and unconscious parts of yourself stop fighting each other and the inner war ends. This wholeness doesn't announce itself with achievements or possessions. It announces itself in the way you wake up in the morning, in the way you handle a difficult conversation, in the way you can sit with another person in silence and feel completely at ease. This is the most beautiful phase Jung described, not because everything in your life is perfect, but because you are no longer at war with what is. Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens." The signs we walked through today, letting go without resentment, releasing the opinions of others, finding meaning in pain, valuing silence, and stopping the chase, they all point to the same thing. A self that is slowly waking up, a chapter that doesn't need to announce itself, a life that is no longer borrowed from the expectations of the world. If this resonated with you, subscribe, because the work continues, and next time we explore another part of this slow and beautiful unfolding, I will see you there.